Update. My 35 male mother's 58 female new fiance 24 male wants me to call him Dad. How do I navigate this? Original post. Please buckle in because this is also weird. I'm a 35-year-old man, and for some backstory, my dad died when I was 19, leaving my mom with me and my two siblings. I'm the oldest. It took some time, but eventually my mom started dating again. We don't live together per se, but our houses back onto each other and have a gate. So it's pretty common for her to offer to do my laundry, for me to go over for dinner or to look after our dog, stuff like that. My siblings and I also go over there for dinner every other Friday night or so. A bit after she started dating, the men she was dating started getting younger and younger. I've never had a problem with this. She's been very open with me and my siblings that she wants to get married again, and we've always been supportive, at least after the initial shocks, lol. The latest guy is by far the most serious, and they've been dating since around last June. He proposed at the start of autumn and they wanted to get married next summer. Again, my siblings and I are fine with this because it's her life, and we trust him. He's a nice guy and they clearly love each other. Anyway, this weekend her fiance, let's call him Phil, called me and asked if I could come over. I said, yeah, sure, I'll be over after work, assuming he needed help with some DIY stuff they're doing. When I got there, he called me Sport and said we needed to talk. I should mention that Phil does this thing where he calls me and my younger brother things like kid, sport, scout, little buddy, or my personal favorite, red and blue, seemingly out of nowhere. My brother is 30, by the way. He tried it with my little sister, 28, once and called her princess, but she just stared at him, and he stopped. The thing with Phil is that he reminds me a lot of Charlie Day's character in Horrible Bosses, and that his whole ambition has always been to meet a girl, get married, and have a family. When he told me and my brother this, my brother joked that our mom might come short on the last part. Phil got very upset, but they made up after. Anyway, I asked if my mom was around, and he said no. It was just him, and that we really need to talk man to man. I said sure, and he started talking about how he's always wanted to be a father and raise a son to call his own. Then he dropped this bombshell. Now, I know I can never replace your father, the man who made you, but it would mean the world to me if you could call me Dad. I'll admit it, I sniggered a little. Then I realized he was serious because he looked like he was about to cry. He didn't drop it either. I asked if he really meant it, and he got emotional, talking about what it means to be a man and how his purpose is to have and provide for a family. He said he wants me and my siblings to be part of that family. He reiterated that he'll never replace my father, which rubbed me the wrong way, but he's ready to step up and be my dad and provide for and protect me and my siblings. I was just sitting there thinking, dude, I'm a decade older than you and live in a separate house. I don't need providing for. Even if I did, I don't think a guy a third my age who works part-time at the hardware store and collects manga is the man to do it. No offense to anyone into that. It's just, I don't know. I was a bit taken aback. I was in shock, so I just said, okay. He got emotional again, this time in a happy way, talking about how he wants to go camping or to a baseball game. I don't even like baseball, lol. He said he joined the Lions this year and wants to bring me into it as his boy. This all feels so surreal, especially because I'm 10 years older than this guy. I ended it by saying, this has gotten a bit too weird, and went home. He got very upset. I called my brother and he agreed it sounded weird AF. Later, my mom called me. She wasn't disappointed but admitted it had made Phil very upset and depressed. I told her that if he's embarrassed, he doesn't need to be. I get that he's excited about the marriage and we can laugh this off as a funny story. She said that wasn't what he was upset about. He, and she a little, is upset that he poured his heart out and I rejected him. She admitted it's a bit kooky but said this is how he proves to himself he's a man. I got a bit angry and said something like, first off, it's not my job to certify what's between his legs. This doesn't prove he's a man. It just proves he's a nut job. I apologized immediately, but she said she didn't want to hear it and hung up. She called me back 10 minutes later and we apologized. She begged me to just go along with it until he has some kids to call his own. She let slip that they plan to try IVF because she's not ready to give up on being a mom just yet. While I have my own thoughts about whether or not that's a good idea, I'm not here to litigate that. We finished the call fine. I reiterated that I'd support her, and she agreed it was definitely a stressful situation for me, but begged me to at least think about it. Which leads me to here. I've thought it over, and obviously I'm going to say no. I had a dad, and he died. Rest in peace, Dad. That's the only dad I've ever needed, wanted, or will ever bestow that title on. I'm not asking if someone is being unreasonable or what I should do. I'm more asking what I should say. This clearly means a lot to Phil for some reason, and I deeply love my mom, so I want to minimize the damage, especially since we're still so involved in each other's lives and they live right behind me. How can I make it clear to them, as painlessly as possible, that I think this is weird and borderline offensive? I really don't want to rip the band-aid off because I fear what it might do to the family. Edit showed my brother the post and he laughed so hard he started coughing. Lol. Then he said we should call Phil Dr. Phil and each other Blue and Red, swapping the nicknames he gave us around. Thoughts? Edit 2. As people were asking, he has no access to my mom's money or anything like that. She rents the house, which came pre-furnished and otherwise has no real assets. She doesn't make a lot of money anyway, so there's no pecuniary motive we can think of. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. I wonder if he grew up without a dad. He's giving a weird 1950s energy to this whole thing that feels like he only knows about dads from seeing them on TV. Oh no, his dad's still alive. Both his parents are. I've met them. They definitely feel odd about the whole situation, but go along with it for his sake. If it is so important to his personal identity to find a girl, have kids with her, and raise them as their dad, it seems like marrying a 58-year-old woman with adult children significantly older than himself is a pretty ineffective way to achieve those life goals. If it is so important to him, he should find someone his own age and make that happen the normal way. It's not your responsibility to make your mom's boy toy feel like a man. You're closer to being his much older brother than his son. Weird. This. Like, of course he feels like a child in this relationship and family. He's not going to feel like a man of the house in this situation. He's very unlikely to get his own child. So why is he sticking around? Me and my siblings all think he has issues talking to girls his own age. And so it led to this. You were downplaying your mother's behavior as well. If you'd cringe at the idea of a 58-year-old man dating a 24-year-old woman, you should be as disgusted by this situation. First update a week later. Anyway, I told both my siblings and we agreed we'd collectively put our foot down with Phil at our next family dinner next week, especially after an incident where Phil referred to my brother as sport and asked if he wanted to go see a baseball game with him. Admittedly, I was a bit spurred on by what you all said and got involved, pinging him back with, "Oh, no tickets from me, Daddy?" My brother responded with, "Daddy wants me all to himself." Hot. Phil took a few minutes to respond before saying he was shocked, speechless, and disgusted. He then messaged me privately to say he was utterly appalled and that he'd never disrespect his own father the way you boys did. At this point, I kind of lost it and said, "Right, and that's because you're not my father, Phil. You're a 24-year-old man-child dating my mother. You have no right to my respect, especially not to the respect a father gets." I immediately apologized, but then blocked his number and left the group chat. Apparently, he sent a similar message to my brother who responded with more daddy jokes, and Phil ended up blocking him. Well, that aside, I don't think the family dinner is going ahead. After the original post blew up, it seems someone from his Lions Club found it and reported it to their chair or whatever. Phil has either been expelled or resigned, or is it in the process of one of the two? He has removed nearly all mentions of the Lions from his social media. His last post about it was a cryptic goodbye where he drones on about what it means to be a man in a modern day and the duty of fatherhood bestowed on all men at birth. Really weird stuff. My mom called me half in a panic and half in a rage about the stuff I'd been telling about him, before breaking down and saying we needed to meet. So we did, and I got my brother to come over too. I know Phil has temporarily moved back in with his parents in the next town over, but from my understanding, they still want to go ahead with the wedding, though I think that's mostly because they've already spent money on it. When she said she was determined to have more kids, plural, my brother stepped up and asked if she really thought that was a good idea at her age. I pointed out that assuming she had a baby next year and lived to 80, the kid still wouldn't have finished college by the time she passed. She stammered on about how people live longer these days before breaking down crying and admitting she's not ready to give up on mothering due to some deep-seated trauma and fears about the family breaking apart, which I won't go into for her sake. When we reassured her that we weren't going anywhere, she calmed down. We had a very good, honest conversation where she agreed to drop the IVF idea on the grounds that it'd be too expensive and unlikely to get greenlit. She's still adamant that it's scientifically possible and ethically acceptable, because she has to win that argument. But whatever. Instead, she's agreed to look into fostering. My brother and I highly doubt anything will ever come of that, so we're not worried anymore. The very good news is that she's also agreed to look into therapy/psychiatric help to deal with her trauma. We helped her get in touch with a nice lady in town so she can unpack all this in a healthier way. At least one person is getting the help they need. I have no idea what's happened with Phil or what's going to happen with him, but I made it clear to my mom that he is not my dad. He's not even my stepdad, and I'm not a kid. He's never going to be either one outside of legal technicalities. She relented pretty quickly. I think she's finally broken out of her shell at least, and we've agreed that if things go ahead, that's going to be a huge red line. I don't know if Phil will want to be friends with me after all this. Lol. Anyway, thanks for the help on the original post, y'all. Wait, so Phil ran home to his mommy and daddy? Great job, kiddos. Great update. Thank you. Is this a message from inside a sitcom somewhere? This cannot be real. You say that, but about 10 years ago, my mother-in-law was obsessed with adopting a little boy, 5 to 7 years old, if I recall correctly. She made it very clear that my, then mid-30s, husband would be just like a full brother to this child, and our daughter would have another uncle. Her harebrained idea was so completely absurd that I literally laughed out loud when she proclaimed her adoption plans to me. She incredulously asked, "What's so funny?" I said, for one, the fact that she would be in her very late 70s when that child became a legal adult. For two, our daughter would never call a child her age or younger uncle anything. Don't worry, my mother-in-law has since moved on from that to countless other ridiculous notions. Sigh. I love how Phil's craziness escalated the already crazy situation of a 58-year-old dating a 24-year-old. So much so that it's not even a part of the discussion anymore. What I'm not understanding is why nobody is focused on that. Like, this is not normal. Is Phil legally an adult? Yes. Should he be treated like a kid? No, because he's not close to being a kid anymore. But that still doesn't make this age gap okay. Like 24 and almost 60? If the genders were reversed, a lot of people would say this isn't right. And it's not right regardless of what gender Phil is. There is absolutely no way Opie's mom isn't taking advantage of Phil. Sorry, Opie, but this is just plain gross of her. Nobody with decency would date a 24-year-old when they're 2 years away from being 60. It's not fair to the younger partner. The older partner is likely going to die decades before them, and OP's mom is at an age where it would be plain selfish to have and raise a baby when there's a possibility she could die in the next decade. Let's be real, it's not uncommon for people to die in their 70s, or even in their 60s. Is 60 super old? No, but it's more than middle-aged, and at that age, you're literally a senior. OP's mom clearly has a lot of trauma causing her to act out. None of this is normal. And the fact that Phil is trying to parent a man an entire decade older than him is really freaking weird. It indicates that he has issues too. And obviously some deep insecurities about dating an older woman who has kids older than him. Second update. A bit of an update as I can't respond to everybody, but I think the marriage is off. Phil has gone AWOL again and had a huge argument with his family after they demanded he call off the wedding and date people his own age. This apparently made him snap. My mom and I have met his mom and older brother, who said Phil is very insecure about girls his own age and has never been able to talk to them, hence his preference. This deeply upset my mom, and after some begging from all of us, she has agreed to push the wedding back, though she still wants to keep dating him. I have no idea where Phil is, though his brother assumes he's couch surfing with his D&D friends. These friends have been sending me and my brothers some not so nice messages, because apparently we're just jealous of the MILF hunter. If any of you socially inept fools are reading this, I don't need to chase middle-aged folks, because I can talk to people my own age like a normal person. Peace. Last story. My 30 female husband 30 male acts like an old man. What are my options? Hi everyone, I need some advice. My husband and I have been together for 6 years, married for 3. And while I love him dearly, I'm starting to feel like I'm married to a 70-year-old man in a 30-year-old's body. He's got this boomer energy that is fully leaning into, and I don't know how to handle it. For example, he makes these painfully unfunny dad jokes to everyone, like telling the postman, "Hope there's no bills today, haha." The postman didn't even fake a laugh. He just stared at him. It's excruciating to witness, but my husband is so proud of himself for these little zingers. And then there's his bedtime schedule. If we're out past 9 p.m., he gets cranky and complains about how late it is. I'm 30, I still want to have fun sometimes. But nope, he's always asking if we can go home early because it's getting late or traffic will be bad tomorrow. I've tried telling him that it's only going to get harder to make and maintain friends as we get older, and that we should sacrifice staying out a little later if it means building social bonds and relationships. But he just brushes it off. I don't want to spend my whole life eating dinner at 5 p.m. and being in bed by 9. Is there a way to talk to him about this without making him feel bad or defensive? I love him and want to include him in things. Now for the advice. This whole situation can be avoided by you not seemingly relying on your husband to have fun. Go out with friends. Leave him at home in bed. Just don't do anything stupid when you're out. That's your option. OP, maybe he has trouble sleeping. Not enough sleep or has sleep apnea. So is tired early and trying to get more sleep. Very valid point. I acted like a cranky old lady at 19 because I was severely sleep deprived. Unfortunately, lost a lot of friendships before I got treated. I've got a CPAP now and it has genuinely changed my life. Married people don't have to do everything together. If you want to stay up later, stay up later. Don't want to have dinner at 5? Don't. Does he have to be up early for work or the gym before work? Is this a major personality shift? Because people aren't projects. It's not for him to change. It's for you to adapt. If you want to bring it up to him, make it less, "You have boomer energy and are boring and make bad jokes." And more, "Hey, I know you like to go to bed early, but can we stay up later on Friday and Saturday nights and make one of those nights a date night and the other one more social?" Partially agree, apart from the "it's not for him to change, it's for you to adapt." They're spending their life together. Both should make an effort to reach a middle ground. That goes for everything. You can't expect one person to always adapt themselves for the other one. That won't work. Update. Am I the a-hole for losing my 27 female cool with my parents, 57 female 59 male, for pushing me to forgive my cheating ex? Original post. I was to be married in July. 2 months ago, I came home from a work trip to find my ex-fiance in bed with my BFF's sister. I kicked him out, canceled the wedding, warned him I would get rid of his stuff if he didn't come get it all, then weeks later dumped it all on the curbside with a free sign. Sold or donated or dumped everything he gave me, and pawned a ring. I blocked him everywhere. Called the cops on him when he showed up after I gave his stuff away, banging on my door. Called him again when he turned up at my workplace and made a scene, and called them on his family when they showed up en masse to plead his case. I didn't go scorched earth on ex-BFF's sister. I did tell her husband I caught her in bed with my ex. Last I heard, she'd been kicked out of the house and was back living with her parents. Ex-BFF tried talking me into giving them both a chance to explain, then got angry at me for ruining her sister's relationship, called me petty and cold-hearted. So I kicked her to the curb too. I don't want dishonest people that are blasé about betrayal in my life. This encounter no doubt simmered under my skin until I unleashed on my parents. Maybe that's the reason, because it lingered. I was so harsh with them. Last week, I met my parents for dinner. I took a date with me to the restaurant, hoping his being there would waylay any discussion about my failed engagement. My parents have been pressuring me to work things out with my ex. He is so sorry. I owe it to him to talk with him, give him 5 minutes to explain himself. She meant nothing to him. He made a mistake. I'm cruel for shutting him out the way I have. How could I call the police on him? How could I do the same to his family? His parents? They're good people. They didn't deserve to be humiliated in that manner. He's having a rough time. He's depressed. Everybody is worried about him. He loves me, really loves me. He's learned his lesson. It's time to grow up and forgive him. No, my date's presence didn't stop them from bringing it all up again. I lost my cool. Asked my father if he expected me to give my ex a pass every time he sticks his junk into anything that moves, like he does. I asked my mother how turning a blind eye to her husband's infidelity works for her. How does she hold her head up while having lunch with women that have slept around with her husband for years? Is that the kind of man and life she wants for me and my sister? For her daughters? I asked if they had any idea of the impact that knowledge had on me and my siblings growing up. Knowing that dad was late home from work because he was screwing his secretary. Knowing work weekend was code for dirty weekend with a woman not our mother. Did they not know why it was that of their 4 children, I'm the one that still talks to them? Do they not question why they were not invited to my brother's weddings? Why they have never met either of my brother's wife and children? Do they think my sister's silence is because she's being dramatic and throwing a tantrum? Really? I stood from the table, congratulated them on the loss of their last remaining child, and told them I hoped their arrogance, willful blindness, and misery was a comfort to them to their last breaths. Then I left. My date, I should have saved him for a proper date rather than an FU to my parents, took me to the nearest bar, let me cry on his shoulder while I proceeded to get very drunk, then made sure I got home safely. The next day, he messaged me to see if I was alive and sent a double cheeseburger, large fries, and a large Sprite over with DoorDash. I didn't block my parents, but I haven't heard from them. It's been a week and I've calmed down enough to feel regret. Not for what I said, but because I can see the looks on their faces when I made my final farewell. I crushed them, hurt them, especially my mother. Despite their faults, and there are many, I love my parents. I don't like knowing I hurt them. I'm feeling a lot of guilt about it. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I have yet to read all the comments, but from what I have seen so far, I think some details need to be cleared up. My date knew we were going to have dinner with my parents. He asked me out that morning. I told him I had plans for the evening and jokingly asked if he wanted to come along. I didn't expect him to say yes. I then informed him I wasn't serious, and anyway, it would probably be a little uncomfortable. And he said if needed, he could post bail. So there you go. He did not enter that restaurant unaware of potential drama. The people mentioned in my post are not the only people in my life. I have my siblings in my life. They didn't cut me off. My sister flew in to be with me just days after I discovered the cheating. And I have good friends. Friends who helped me pack up ex's things. Helped me to move it all down to the curb. A friend that found me a guy that paid a fair price for the engagement ring. I only mentioned ex-BFF, etc. because how they acted and what they were saying contributed to all those buried feelings that had been dormant for years coming out when they did, in the way they did. Top comments before reading the update 6 months later. Not the a-hole. Well, maybe to the date, but he seemed to take it well. Good for you for not taking back a cheater. What's wrong with all these people who think you should have? Seems like she has had too much experience with cheaters. No wonder she doesn't tolerate that BS. Not the a-hole. So many people say be the bigger person, but that's just straight up BS. They want you to turn a blind eye to betrayal, but no. Some of us find that to be a complete deal breaker. I'm with you 100%. Cut them all out of your life, because what's more important is your mental well-being and not giving closure or forgiveness towards those that hurt you. As for your parents, they made their choices, and now they have to live with the consequences of their crappy actions. Also, your date sounds like a good person. Regardless of how that turns out, he stood by you and gave you comfort food. That's a big plus in my book. I could maybe be the bigger person if he got me a burrito instead of the taco I wanted. Cheating on me in my apartment in my bed? Buzz off. Take your filthy butt out with the other piece of trash. Now 40 updates 6 months later. It's been a minute since I was here last. Life has been busy, work has been busy, and updating Reddit wasn't on my mind. Apologies to all those that continued to send messages asking for an update. I figure better late than ever. A quick recap. Lost my temper with my parents when they tried to push me to forgive and reconcile with my cheating ex. Some really hurtful and harsh truths were shared by me to them in the moment. Afterwards, I felt tremendous guilt. The regret started to eat at me. Where to start? First, a thank you to all who replied to my post. I try to read every comment, and though I didn't post for the validation most of you gave, receiving it did lighten the load a little bit. It didn't take away from the guilt I carried, but I was able to work through that to see that although my timing was off, what I said was absolutely necessary. Thank you, too, to some of those that sent me private messages rather than posting on the main thread. Having read your own stories of a similar upbringing, conversing with you has helped me to understand that my childhood and teens were traumatic. That those years left wounds that I'd never addressed until this all came about. Now for what has happened since. My mother left my father not long after my post. Maybe a couple of weeks after. She showed up at my apartment one night with her luggage. I can't explain how broken and pitiful she was. I brought her inside, held her, and my heart broke for her. I realized then that she had no one she could turn to. Absolutely no one. No family, no friends. I cannot help but wonder if she had been all alone for all the years of her marriage. And if me or one of my siblings had said something sooner, would she have had the courage to leave my father then? I'd never seen my mother, usually so dignified and unruffled, look so broken. It shocked me to see her that way. It worried me so much that I made her sleep in my bed with me. I called my siblings, and within days they all came to show support and love. Then it was me, my mother, and my sister sleeping in my bed. It was good for her to see that her children still cared. Because we did care. We did love her. It was the situation my siblings distanced themselves from. At first, my mother stayed with me. She was having a hard time of it. Years of humiliation, shame, and guilt ate at her. I was worried about her state of mind and didn't like to leave her alone. I couldn't take time off work to be with her every second of the day, so I took her to the shelter and we got her a dog. My thinking was, if she had something to take care of, it would distract her from dark thoughts. I was hoping for a puppy because they are playful and would keep her busy, but she fell in love with a 5-year-old mixed breed, and it fell right back. He's a goof. We don't know how it happened, but we woke up one night to him howling because he had somehow wedged his head in between the spindles on the stairs. His whole head. We had to call the fire department to rescue him. Of course, my mother didn't think he was at fault, and she now refers to him as her baby. He adores my mother, though. My oldest brother moved some things around, then moved her across the country to live with him and his family. He thought she would do better if there was no chance of her running into Dad or one of his many women. He found her a therapist, and that seems to be working. She is loving being a grandmother, and all reports are that she is an indulgent one. She has a separate in-law suite, so she gets to see them every day. My brother tells me when the kids go missing, they can now be found at Grandma's. My dad is my dad. He doesn't lack for company. I had dinner with him not long after my mother moved across the country, where he introduced me to the new woman in his life. I reminded them both that I knew exactly who she was, considering she called my mother her best friend for all my life. Cue another awkward dinner. My dad tried to make it as pleasant as he could, but whenever she spoke to me, I would bring up a memory from my childhood of her spending time with our family and ask if she was sleeping with my father all the way back then. The next day, he called to tell me how disappointed he was with me. I felt it only fair to share my own disappointments. We argued for a bit. He tried to downplay all he had done over the years, tried to play the victim of his own actions. I ended up cutting the conversation short and blocking him. It was just over a month ago when he showed up at my door. I wouldn't let him in, and I'm sure that rattled him some. He told me he didn't want to lose me too. Say what you want about him, but he is my dad. I love him. I don't want to lose him either. He promised he wouldn't force me to interact with any of his women. So far, we have had a couple of pleasant outings that have gone well so far. I am cautiously hopeful that we can continue to be in each other's lives. As for me, well, I took that advice some of you gave me and I am in therapy. It is humbling to come to the realization that though you may think you're fine, you are actually not. It has been almost unbearable to face all that history and excruciatingly painful to dig through it all. At the end of some sessions, all I want to do is head to the nearest bar and drink until I forget all about what I just went through, to find out where it all started and why I am the way I am. I think therapy is one of the most difficult things I have ever done. I don't know how some of you have been doing it for as long as you have. I also don't know why you do it so willingly. I'm a crazy nutter for listening to all you nutters in the first place. But it is helping. Now for the update most of you want. I cannot even tell you how many messages I continue to receive from people wanting to know about him. It was almost like you all were saying, "Girl, we don't care about whatever life crisis you're going through. Just tell us about the date." Well, I haven't replied to any of those queries because my post wasn't about him. Now, I figure in a roundabout way I owe you something because you all played a part in where we are today. I won't give you a rundown of everything that has happened between us, but I will give you a few things. He contacted me after seeing a podcast on YouTube. He sent me a link with a query, "Is this you?" It would be an understatement to say I was mortified. My mortification kept me from replying to him. I was so deep in my embarrassment that I didn't even bother to read the messages he sent me over the next couple of weeks. When I finally did read them, it was to find a whole heap of screenshots of people's comments. I'm going out on a limb by saying you don't need me to tell you the contents of the comments he was sending me. I eventually got back to him. It was difficult for us to make time to see each other. As I stated earlier, my life, both personal and professional, has been busy. He has also a life and work. We were only able to meet up for coffee a couple of times. I didn't think we were going to be able to grow a friendship, let alone anything beyond that. I've since learned that he is tenacious and persistent, like a dog with a bone. He kept at it until we found time to go on a second date. The date went well and led to another, then another. Then he introduced me to the two most important people in his life, his grandparents. His grandfather carves little wooden figurines, and I have since acquired a flock of wooden birds. His grandmother thinks I'm too skinny. She feeds me whenever I see her, and usually sends me home with food. He gets along with my sister and brothers. He came with me to visit my mother on her birthday and met them all. He was very gracious with her. I had him saved in my phone as Cheeseburger. He took issue with that because he bought me a double cheeseburger. So I started calling him Double Cheese and then shortened that to DC. He is still saved in my phone as Cheeseburger. He's an undercover Swiftie and I don't quite know what to do with that. I don't have anything against Taylor Swift, but I sure didn't pick him to love her. He did use his little sister and niece as cover for his Taylor Swift love. Now he uses me. I am fine with being so used. Not sure if your therapist recommended this book or not, but it's extremely helpful. Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I think it can help you navigate your relationship with them going forward, even though it sounds like you're doing a bang-up job already. I love how you called out your dad and your mom's old friend. I'll check it out. Thanks for the recommendation. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister with her kids after she slept with my husband? I, 29 female, have been married to my husband, 31 male, for 6 years. My older sister, 32 female, has always been someone I looked up to, even though our relationship has been rocky at times. She's married with 2 young kids, and I've always gone out of my way to support her and be the best aunt I can be. Okay, so last year, I found out that my husband cheated on me with her, sending nude pics, etc. I found out through these text messages. It completely broke me. When I confronted both of them, they apologized profusely, and my husband swore it was a mistake and that he wanted to work things out. My sister cried and said it was a one-time thing and that she was so ashamed. As far as I know, pics were exchanged, but nothing happened between them in real life. But honestly, I could never look at her the same way after that. I decided to try to make my marriage work, which looking back, I'm not sure was the right decision, but I completely cut my sister off. I didn't talk to her for almost a year. My family knows about what happened, but they've tried to brush it under the rug, saying people make mistakes and that I should forgive her because she's family. Now here's where things get messy again. My sister's husband had to go away for work, and she's been overwhelmed taking care of their kids on her own. She reached out to me, begging for help. She said she's exhausted and really needs a break, and that her kids miss me. I told her no. I'm still furious about what she did, and I don't feel like I owe her anything after what she put me through. She started crying, saying she's sorry and that I'm being cruel for punishing her when she's already feeling so guilty. My parents are now siding with her, saying that I'm being heartless and that I need to let it go for the sake of the kids. But honestly, I just can't. The betrayal was too deep, and I'm still working through the pain of what happened. I feel guilty about not helping her kids because I love them, but I don't want anything to do with her right now. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to help her even though her kids are innocent in all this? Now for the top comments. Let your parents help her out if they care so much. Maybe a part-time babysitter or something, but not your problem. Many of us raised kids with no family around to help at all, so it can be done. Not the a-hole. Yeah, not the a-hole. Your sister crossed a major line and you're still hurt. You have every right to set boundaries, and just because her kids are innocent doesn't mean you owe her anything after what she did. It's not your responsibility to help her, especially when you're still trying to heal. Your sister. She betrayed you in the very worst way you can hurt someone. Where was her family loyalty when she was sending him nude pics? How disgusting. Morals of an alley cat. And now when she needs a babysitter, she's come crying to you? Nope. No way. Actions have consequences. This is it. Not the a-hole whatsoever. You don't owe a damn thing, including forgiveness. She betrayed you in the most horrible way. Your husband? He deserves the same. I don't know where the two of you are at in fixing your marriage, but I don't think he deserves the chance or the forgiveness either. He is just as guilty as your sister.